Derek Wills, welcome back to the show, brother.
What's up, man? How you been?
Man, I haven't been great, dude. Like the world's been kind of fucked up lately, dude, and it's been getting me down. How about you? How you feeling?
I have a lot of pent up rage. I fucking hate everything that I am seeing, and I laugh to hide the tears. But it doesn't do a good job. So yeah, that's how I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, man. I don't know what to make of all of this. As of today, we're sitting here at apparently the cusp of the end of the Iran war, which is supremely confusing considering there was. I mean, if you look at the articulated reasons for going to war and then the goals they were trying to achieve, nothing's been done. There's just been devastation and loss of life and expenditure of blood and treasure on both sides. And we've got nothing but a more chaotic, violent, disorderly world as a result. You seeing it the same way?
Um, I I would use the word terrorism to describe what I'm
Mm,
seeing. You know, blowing up water distillation plants is absolutely an act of terrorism. Blowing up oil refineries and causing toxic rain to rain down upon people is an act of terrorism. And quite frankly, anybody who is supporting anybody doing these things is supporting terrorism. The "I was just following orders" excuse is fucking bullshit. You're responsible for
mm.
your actions. I don't give a fuck if you were ordered to do it. You have the ability to say no. You might get fucking kicked out of the military. I honestly I don't give a shit. You can say no and refuse to carry out murder of people, murdering of a school full of elementary children. It's just all absolutely beyond fucked. And I am so absolutely enraged and infuriated by the shit that I'm seeing, and some of the interactions that I've had on X, like some fucking twat waffle Marine talking about how excited he is to get his combat action ribbon. Like, fuck off, dude. You are literally itching to go be a terrorist. That's literally what you're doing. And I fucking hate it. I absolutely hate it. I hate every second of it.
Yeah, you and me both, man. I've got myself in a little bit of trouble, man, or at least sideways of some people in our movement. You know, the liberty movement. And I know everybody means well, right? Like I get, I'm not sort of casting aspersions on people's viewpoints, and I know there's multiple different views, but I see it the same way you do. Like I look at the troops, and I'm like, you're terrorists. It's been a nonstop war of aggression against all these Middle Eastern countries and really the whole globe, essentially for like the last 25 years straight. You know, I
If
think
longer.
yeah, it's been longer, but like I was talking to Jacob Winograd last night, and he was giving me the sort of trying to give me the balanced position, or trying to give me the nuanced position, or the, have you thought about this type of position? And like I get it, like in the 80s, there was a couple of things that flared up. You got Beirut, and you had
Hmm.
there's these things that popped off, but they were real minimal, and it was more common than not to be in a state of not active war, right?
Right.
And so you could sort of, like, I'm thinking back when I enlisted, it was kind of like you're gambling clearly. Like anyone who signed on that dotted line, I guarantee you've gone through that mental exercise. Like, oh, is the college money worth it? Is a GI Bill worth it? Is the training worth it? Because I could end up getting deployed, and you sort of make this calculation. It's like, well, based on the past, it's like, well, a couple of little things, but it's not really that dangerous, and I'm not going to be asked to go. You could bias yourselves towards, I'm protecting the country, right? Like the primary duty is like, I'm going to protect the homeland, and I can do the patriotic thing and all of that. But the last 25 years, it's been nothing but naked aggression, and it's been continual, right? There wasn't even a breather in any of the action. It was constant redeployments. I know people, like people I enlisted with, ended up retiring from the military, and some aren't here anymore. They got themselves got. It was just a repetitive cycle of deployments. You're going to Afghanistan, you're going to Iraq, maybe you stop in Korea for a year, maybe you go to Germany, that you rotate back through. That's what it's been for 25 years. And the excuse that I get that, well, these people, well, come on, Derek, like they get propagandized into it. And the military recruiters, they're so evil, which by the way, they are. Clearly they are. But I just don't, I'm like you. I see things with absolute moral clarity. It's like these are human beings, right? Our troops are over there taking actions. They're not automatons, but all the language that we hear around the troops is they got sent.
Yes.
Trump bombed the school, like no, he didn't. He didn't do anything. He made mouth noises. The commanders made mouth noises or communicated via some sort of digital system that's like, hey, go do this thing. And at any point through the chain of command, anybody could say no. We could just say, we're not doing it. This is fucked. And nobody ever does. And so for me, that's like my clear, bright line is like, this is wrong. You are attacking another country, and say what you will about Iran. They're run by a bunch of extremists. Fine, that's true. I mean, we can go back to Operation Ajax and talk about how how they came to be in power. But ultimately, like this, we've been at war for 47 years. No, we haven't. Iran hasn't been doing shit. Like ultimately, like if you talk about like the death toll on the United States side versus the Iranian side, I even looked up the data on this. Like Iran's got a couple of thousand, since 1979. The United States has over 1.1 million direct kills. These are civilians and soldiers that they have murdered, right, throughout the world. Not defensive action. These are active initiatory aggression where they just murder people. And then the non-direct kills, it's in like 3-4 million people, since 1979. And Iran's got like a couple thousand, 1,500, 1,800. Like the scale it's not even proportional. And so when I see that stuff, I'm like, I've got to call it out, because number one, it's evil. And number two, I don't want to see kids like me. It's always the poor kids that don't have a lot of options getting sucked into the system. And I think America is complicit. I think the thank you for your service, patting them on the back, you get to board the airline first, all of that bullshit ends up perpetuating. It sort of reinforces those evil recruiters to sort of like, hey, don't you want to serve your country? Da, da, da. And everybody supporting them makes me feel like the country's complicit in these acts of like deep evil, man. We're talking millions of human beings no longer above ground. A lot of children, a lot of like really innocent people that are impacted by this, and we're all cheering and clapping. I think libertarians have got a real problem with this, because they're afraid to call this out. I think a lot of times, right? They're just like, well, this is a sacred cow. This is a third rail. We don't touch this. We don't talk about the troops. And I think it's time that changes. I don't know if I'm exactly right in my approach, but it feels like deep in my soul, I'm like, something's really fucking wrong. Something's got to change.
Yeah, and I want to go back to one of the first things that you said. About people following orders, and we sent them, and there's an element of truth to that. Yeah, they are brainwashed. I was brainwashed whenever I enlisted. You were brainwashed whenever you enlisted, and that does make you a victim. However, and this is what everybody seems to forget, even if you are a victim, you are still responsible for your own actions. If you, as a victim, end up victimizing somebody else, your status of being a victim is not a fucking excuse. You did that. I don't care what circumstances led to it. You did it, and you are responsible for that evil. Now, we can make arguments about the chain of command and the pressures that people feel, but ultimately you're the one who decides whether or not to follow that order, and that's something that a lot of people forget. I mean, just think about Nazi soldiers carrying out horrific acts. We didn't give those fuckers an excuse. We actually said that just following orders is not a valid excuse for committing war crimes.
It's the whole basis of the Nuremberg trials.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're expecting whenever we talk about the sacred cows of the military, is that, well, it's okay, they're just following orders. Yeah, it's tragic. No. They are doing bad shit. I was lucky in that I never had to do anything or was put in a position where I felt that I had to do something or any of that bullshit when I was in. In the 6 years that I was in, I never saw combat. I was very, 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 very fucking lucky. And it's absolutely tragic to watch these people get so mind fucked by the entire system and then still carry out these orders of that are absolutely evil. And you know, nobody ever puts themselves in the other person's shoes. Like, okay, they're fighting me, why? I don't know, probably because we just blew up a fucking school, or maybe because we put economic terrorism against them that killed 500,000 children in Iraq in the 90s, or some shit like that. I mean, the United States, and I hate saying we and us, and I try very hard not to, but it's so habitual that I have to catch myself. But the U.S. has done an immeasurable evil since 1953 in that entire fucking region. You mentioned Operation Ajax. People need to understand just how fucked that whole thing was. It actually was supposed to happen earlier in 1951, but it was Truman who was president at the time, and he told Churchill, because Churchill was the one who approached him and said, "Hey, I need help because the Iranians, they just exiled their Shah, and he was kind of my puppet guy, and he was giving us all this oil and shit for pennies on the dollar, and it was great. And now they're trying to nationalize their entire oil industry." And Truman said, "Look, I don't want to set the precedent of sending the CIA to overthrow a nation we are not currently at war with." That's fucking insane. And by the way, a lot of what I'm talking about, you can read in the book All the Shah's Men by Stephen Kinzer. I highly recommend it. I'm going through another read right now because of current events. It is insane how prophetic it was, just in the preface alone. But Truman told Churchill to get fucked. He's like, "Look, I don't want to set the precedent that we're going to use the CIA to overthrow a government we're not even at war with. Why would I do that?" And then Truman leaves office, and Eisenhower comes in, and what does Churchill do? He goes back to the White House and says, "Hey, these communists in Iran." And as soon as he said that, Eisenhower was like, "Say no more, fam." And the CIA launched Operation Ajax. And here's the thing.
And it wasn't just CIA. That was a joint operation with the British.
Yes. CIA, MI6 were both heavily involved. And what also people fail to realize, and I've seen it even before all of this bullshit happened, I've seen people spreading pictures of Iran in the mid-70s, early 70s, talking about how Western it was. It was that way because we had a puppet leader in the Shah, the same Shah that was exiled in the 50s. We restored to power, and people don't realize that he had a secret police called the Savak, and the Savak was trained by the CIA and Mossad. So, and they did very horrible things, like Gestapo type shit, disappearing people, murdering people, just like the worst shit you can imagine. The Savak was doing that to anybody who was a dissenter of the Shah, and many people were dissenters of the Shah because they wanted Mohammad Mossadegh, the guy that we ousted and then falsely reported as being killed, even though he hadn't been. Like, so yeah, there is a hatred that Iran has because of American meddling. And I don't even think that word does it justice. It's not meddling. It's just pure outright fuckery that we have unleashed in that entire region. In fact, one of the motivations behind Osama bin Laden's hatred for the U.S. had to do with what we did to Iran, and he fucking hated the Iranians because they're a different sect of Islam. You know, I forget which is which. You know, one's Sunni and one's Shiite. I forget which is which. But they hated each other because of that, and they were like, "Hey, the Americans are fucked. We do not want to fuck with them." And that's what actually led to bin Laden getting exiled from Saudi Arabia, because right before Desert Storm happened, he goes to the Sultan and is like, hey, look, don't use American support. I've got a fuck ton of mujahideen from the Afghan Soviet war that we're ready to fight, and we will go fuck these people up in Kuwait. Nope. He told him to get fucked and welcomed American involvement, and it just goes. It just goes downhill from there with airstrikes in Lebanon by Israel and supported by the United States and Syria and Jordan and all of this shit. The United States never should have fucked with Iran to begin with, and none of this shit would have ever happened. In fact, I bet money, of course I can never prove this, but I bet if the United States had never fucked with Iran to begin with and we had stayed the fuck out of the Middle East for the half century that we've been fucking with them, that entire region might be one of the most prosperous and stable regions of the world. But no, we decided to commit economic and war terrorism against them because they did shit that we didn't like, and also we wanted all of their resources because fuck them. So fuck.
Yeah, I like to think you bring up something really important that Americans never do. Ron Paul was always great about doing this and holding up a mirror. It was like, well, how would you feel if that happened to you? We had January 6th because some people didn't like an election that they thought was rigged, domestically. They, set fire to the Capitol. They quasi rioted, over because their guy, this disgusting pig of a human being, didn't win some federal election. Now imagine some foreign government, particularly some Muslims, coming over here and literally conducting an intel operation to depose, a democratically elected leader in America and impose a brutal puppet dictator. Like that literally happened, but in reverse. Americans don't have the capacity for some reason for that just basic level of human empathy to be like, how would you feel? How would you feel towards that country who did that, or those people who did that to you? And it's just lost on people. I don't know why in America most people just lack that basic circuit, but my God, is it just appalling and shocking?
Yeah. And this retard that we have in the White House is repeating all of the same mistakes, even courting the former Shah's son to take over for Iran. Like, holy shit, man. Like, this is not what people this is not healthy, and it's very obvious this is all just to distract from Epstein. But we can't talk about that anymore because Operation Distract from Epstein has been successful. So, let's just move on. The Dow is now, it's now below 50K, but it was above 50K. So that was good. Let's send people to die and murder for, some strange reason, and we'll tell them that it's terrorists and we want to stay safe or some bullshit like that. I don't fucking know.
It's been a weird time. It's been a weird thing to watch. What do you think is happening here? Because it feels to me like Trump just thought he could pull a Venezuela. Like, we can just go blow up Iran. We could, cause a whole bunch of chaos. And then obviously, like, his son is trading oil. You heard that Barron Trump was putting a $30 million bet on oil ahead of the operation, enrich his family, which is a common theme.
Yeah.
But it felt like I'm just going to be in and out. I'm going to go blow him up. And then we'll be like, oh, psych. No, it's good. We're going to declare victory and move on. And I feel like he severely miscalculated this one. I can't tell if it was intentional and he really wants to continue this thing on, but it's like I look at the winners and losers of this thing, and like the DoD contractors winning bigly, right? So all of the war, that's what war does. You blow up a bunch of equipment, you got to replace it with newer, better stuff, and then the DoD contractors make out like gangbusters. But man, we're on the edge, razor's edge of like World War III in a very real sense, and I can't tell if it's intentional or if he's just that stupid. It's almost impossible to differentiate for me.
Here's my take, and I think I don't know if I'll be able to ever prove this, but Iran has been in the public eye for a very long time. Obviously, there have been proponents of people wanting to attack Iran for many years, for a few decades at the very least. I think that those people never left DC. And Trump is just one of those guys. He's like, oh wait, this will be my legacy, and it'll be an in and out, 20-minute adventure. Um, okay, sounds good. How can I make money doing it at the same time? Oh, let's do this X, Y, and Z. So I think that that's more of it than anything. I think that he's more of a yes man. He portrays himself as this fighter, but that's all marketing bullshit anyway. I honestly think that some idiot defense guy, some general somewhere was like, hey, we've had Iran on our radar for a bit. We should attack him. He's like, fuck yeah, let's do it. I think that's a great idea. Not once considering any of, you would think after 250 years, the U.S. would know what the word blowback means. Clearly fucking not. He didn't even consider that. And this whole spiel trying to say, oh yeah, all of the Iranians are thanking us right now. I'm like, have you seen the videos of the protests? Those are not pro-American protests. Those are get fucked America protests. Those are you come here and we will fucking murder you if you try to murder us protests. That is civilians getting involved to say, we don't fucking want your help. And that's not to say that anything that Iran was doing to their people was good. It wasn't. But, I posted I posted a picture of a page from the preface of All the Shah's Men, and it lays out exactly what would happen if we bombed Iran. And this was from 2008. And it was literally, I'm watching it happen, how attacking that would cause such a nationalist pride in Iran that everybody that we were quote unquote trying to save would instantly turn against us. Like, holy fuck, man. He was so spot on just in this preface. And I'm just like, oh, man, like this, everything is terrible. I feel so heartbroken for every single one of those people that is getting victimized by the United States military and the IDF. And, a lot of them are truly innocent. And I know that there's a lot of MAGA tards out there that'll be like, oh, they're Muslims and Muslims are not innocent. And go fuck yourself. First of all, you don't know dick shit about their religion. I know that we sensationalize the extremist elements of their religion, but every religion has extremist elements in it. We've got fucking Christians who will blow up abortion centers and all sorts of other terrorists that are not Islam. But because the news told them that the Muslims are out to get you and they hate you for your freedom, they buy into it, and it's terrible. And you have people, literally innocent people who just wanted to live their lives, getting murdered. Some of them at a very young age, and it breaks my heart. And the cheering and the showboating and the flag waving and quote unquote sense of patriotism it just makes me fucking sick, man.
Yeah, me too, man. I think the school was really emblematic of that, and a lot of it's because I have 3 daughters at home here, and not only hearing about it, but I'm not sure if you saw, but they had pictures of the remains that they found. And there was basically, for most of these kids, there was nothing left. They had these black duffel bags with like a foot and like a little, I mean, they were using DNA analysis to try to sift these things out, because you couldn't even put together full bodies. It was just horrific. And then you think about them blowing up the oil center, like a refinery or whatever that was, where just raining toxic, aerosolized crude oil into the air, causing all sorts of problems with people. And then the White House is publishing videos. You've seen those? Or like these horrible, like dunking videos of like, it's just the most ridiculous propaganda you've ever seen, just celebrating this stuff. And then you got the retard MAGA people online that are just clapping like seals for it and talking about American superiority and dominance and power. Meanwhile, what you've just done is you've replaced an older version of the Ayatollah with a younger version of an Ayatollah who's now really pissed off because you killed his dad. And the whole sect of people is resolute and fired up against Americans. And now there's going to be real blowback, as you and I both know. And it's really going to hit, we're probably going to have some sort of attack, either a false flag or real, on American soil. And, it's probably going to get us pulled into a further war. It's going to escalate. This stuff, to have the hubris to think that you have the ability to engage in this type of mass scale destruction of a country and then just be like, yeah, we're out of here. We're done, guys. Everything's over. The war's over. Oil prices are coming back down. LOL. Let's move on to the next thing. That is just it's just a pit in my stomach thinking about it. Just that type of human being exists in the world.
Yeah, I mean, not only that they exist, but that they are in a station to be able to carry out such evil, and not only carry out such evil, but be cheered for it. You know, Trump said famously during his first run that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not lose a supporter. And it's like, man, that's child's play. He could literally order military members to blow up an elementary school full of children and not lose supporters. And I'm exhausted, man. Like, this war hasn't even started really. And I know that he came out today and said that, oh yeah, the war with Iran, it's pretty much over. We're gonna be packing up here real soon, you know. I don't fucking believe it. Like, even if he pulled all of the warships and aircraft back to whatever foreign outpost that they are stationed at, this war is not over, because Iran is not going to just lay down and take it. There are going to be, I fear, there are going to be attacks on U.S. soil. I think that there are probably going to be some false flags, but I think there are going to be a lot of legitimate ones too, because that's who we just fucking pissed off. And you know, I have really thought, and I've tried to beg the question as to what it would take to make the average American into a terrorist. And I don't mean that, I don't mean the euphemism for, what we see in the Middle East. I mean, what would it take to turn the average American into somebody that the government wants to assassinate and murder? And doesn't matter if they kill a couple of civilians in the process, because you are such a threat, because you are pissed off that they did something to you. They're not even necessarily pissed off at the nation from which you hail. They're pissed off at you because of your ideology. What would that take? And, you brought up J6, and, we had the whole Russian collusion and interference possibility, and that pissed off some people that maybe Russia was meddling in an election. Now imagine that instead of just meddling in an election, there are economic sanctions and your child is starving to death. Or you send your child to school and your school gets bombed by a military. Or, I don't know, fill in the blank with your imagination of the most evil fucking thing you can think of. At what point would you be like, you know what, fuck this, I have nothing else left to lose, and I'm going to go down fighting with everything that I can, and holy shit, there's a bunch of other people that are just as pissed off and have nothing else to lose like me? What would it take to turn the average American into that?
Honestly, don't know. I've thought about this a lot, and not just from that perspective, but from a perspective to get any American to take any kinetic action whatsoever. Especially the righties, right? They talk, oh, we're gonna take over the government. We got the Second Amendment. We're gonna, stack up or fuck off, or all these tropes that they deploy, and nobody does anything ever. Like, J6 was the most mild thing you could possibly imagine. You did a walking tour through the Capitol for the most part. If, like, my buddy Adam, he moved a piece of furniture, like, you get a felony. Like people don't do anything in America. I think that we, by and large, have gotten too soft because things have been too easy, because we've had that sort of benefit of being the world's reserve currency, and we could inflate away our currency, but actually export our inflation, because other countries have to buy oil, so they convert their currency into dollars. So there's an artificial demand for dollars. We have this artificially high standard of living, and everyone's gotten real used to it, man. Everyone is high on the hog. We're fat and happy, and they don't want to rock the boat. And I think this is how the government has lulled us into the situation that we're in, where they just slowly, incrementally take away more rights and more rights, increase the surveillance state, and increase, just the sort of aggression with which they enforce the law, and how they go after people who might step out of line. And we've just kind of retreated so much. and allowed the government to take so many steps forward that I feel like we're pretty much boxed into a corner. Like we literally have, like everyone is, I love this. Everyone's looking around at each other like, oh, really? Like we're all ruled by a bunch of evil pedophiles in DC, and like it's just on the table and we have the information, and everyone's just looking at each other like, well, what are you going to do about it? And the government's looking at us like, what are you going to do about it? And everyone's like, nothing. So I'm not sure there is a line, Derek. Like Americans, I don't think they're going to do anything. I think the only time anything kinetic is going to happen is when it's forced upon us. There's a collapse. The dollar collapses, the economy collapses, everything goes into, you know, starvation mode, and people start dying, and it turns into like zombie land. And it's forced upon us, you know, against our will. It's the only time I see anyone who's an American like taking any sort of kinetic action.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have become fat, lazy, and weak. And I also include myself in that, because I am also fat, pretty lazy, and fairly weak. But, you know, I'm also exhausted, and at least I have the intellectual capacity to understand the difference between moral and immoral, and good and evil. And, you know, I guess the United States has lost sight of that entirely, because the propaganda machine has just stripped it away from them. And, you know, again, going back to what I said earlier about you may be a victim, but you're responsible for your actions still. You know, I would say that the bulk of Americans are also victims of the propaganda machine from the state. But they're still responsible for the people that they put in power, and they're responsible for the evil that those people commit. And then, yeah, but they'll never say that. Everybody makes excuses. We can't even admit when we're wrong, and that's terrible. I mean, obviously, I say that generally speaking. I know that there are people who regret supporting Trump. You know, and they had their reasons for supporting him, and now deeply regret that, especially, and that was before Iran. Now they probably feel even worse. But unfortunately, most people don't. They don't feel that way. They would much rather make excuses and do these mental gymnastics than admit that they were wrong and learn from those mistakes. And that's how we ended up here, is that nobody ever admitted that they were wrong. And they kept making excuses, and they kept doing the same thing, and they kept voting harder, and they kept showing up every election to make sure that they were, you know, supporting their country and supporting the military and all this shit. And it's past time. I mean, fuck, it might be too late now, but it is past time to stop with that bullshit. You know, start calling out people who do evil things. There are no more sacred cows. There never have been. The only reason the military was turned into a sacred cow was because of the protests after, you know, during Vietnam. But they were actually mostly right. There were some, you know, there was some fuckery going on, and they got some things wrong, like, you know, because there were a lot of Vietnam vets who did not want to be there and did everything they could to get out of it. And, you know, but at the same time, there were also war criminals who did things like the Malay massacre. And so they were justified in all of that. But now we've lost sight of the fact that the troops are able to commit evil acts. And we've given them a pass now because of America, I guess. And we need to stop it. We need to start really reflecting on ourselves, our morals. We need to reflect on what is actually good and evil. We need to reflect on what it means to be guilty or innocent. And we need to do these things through a legitimate scope, and not these, you know, these rose-colored glasses, you know, that are fed to us by the propaganda machines in the state, and, you know, the indoctrination that we felt. We need to wake the fuck up. And I don't know how else to do it, man.
Yeah, I don't either, but I want to ask a question, because you did bring up, you know, everyone's afraid to be wrong or to say they were wrong. Not everybody, by the way. Shout out Jacob's in the chat. Jacob's
Love you, Jacob.
Shining example of somebody who, you know, hey, I was wrong, and that's great. I love to see that. But what do you think about social media's role in this? I think a lot about this because you and I both we flamethrow a little bit on X, right? Like we
Hmm.
talk a little bit of shit and we maybe dunk on some people for being wrong. And I'm like, how do you think about balancing that, right? Speaking the truth and being honest and being direct and all that stuff, but also not reinforcing that sort of social media paradigm where everybody gets into teams and they get defensive and they don't want to have conversations because everyone's number one afraid to be wrong. I think everyone is. So they want to be like, especially like not intellectual leaders, which I consider you to be. You're somebody who's really well read. Like seriously, dude. Like you're one of the most articulate people I know. You've thought through things deeply, but you're an outlier. I'm an outlier. Jacob's an outlier. Like we're different. Not that we're better, but there's just certain type of people. There's a certain type of autism that lends itself to like thinking really deeply about stuff. And you have to understand that like regular people that are concerned about going to work and getting their kids health care and going to the soccer game and just living life, right? Just surviving. Sometimes they're not as connected to the details. So they outsource their thinking, right, to their thought leaders, right? And back in the day, it was a lot simpler. You had these Democrats, and you had Republicans, and you had CNN, and you had Fox News. You could just tune in, download the talking points, and you could just parrot this stuff, and you could act like you were sort of connected to the details. And we don't live in that world anymore. With social media, we become so fragmented. We have instantaneous news coming from doesn't have to be an outlet, a news outlet, or even a certified journalist, whatever that would be. And we have access to all this information, and there's all these ideas that are out there. And we're fragmenting. There's such a fractalized sort of body politic now, and you're all these little pockets where they just get these little teams, and everybody's screaming at each other, and people, like I said, are afraid to be wrong. They're afraid to have an honest discussion. They just turtle up and play defense, and everyone's fighting each other. And so, like, I want to know how you think about how you balance that thing where you're being honest, you're being direct, you're holding people accountable, but also being intellectually honest, charitable, trying to foster some sort of dialogue where you can. I know it's not possible anywhere, but you get my point. Like I'm trying to figure out where that sweet spot is and how you're seeing that.
I might be a bit cynical here because I've tried a lot to talk to people, even as they are vehemently attacking me. And I have learned over the years that social media is a cesspool. These are horrible cultists, basically NPCs. I think the bulk of people that are capable of changing are not people who typically engage on social media. There are a few, for sure. I have found that a large majority of people on social media, it's an absolute waste of fucking time to try and convince them and persuade them. I've tried it, and I could be wrong here. This is just based off of my experience. 95% of the time, I would say, I don't even bother wasting my time because time is of the essence here. The world is fucking burning right now. And I don't have time to pussyfoot around and argue with an NPC who's not going to take anything I say seriously whatsoever. And he's just going to bring up the same bullshit talking points he heard on his favorite propaganda talking head and leave it at that. So I don't typically fuck with a lot of people and try to convince them on socials, especially if they're an influencer. Oh my God. They are the absolute worst because if they're a conservative or a leftist influencer, they're not going to change. That's their paycheck. Yeah, exactly.
They're getting paid.
Yeah. They would not change their mind under any circumstances. Like even before AI, you could send them a video of somebody they support doing something fucked up, and they'd be like, "Well, he changed," or make some bullshit excuse for him. And it was absolutely infuriating. We should take it on a case-by-case basis. If somebody is portraying themselves as a typical NPC, I don't fuck with them. We shouldn't waste our time with them. If there is somebody on socials who is trying to have a discussion, then have the discussion. And it's rare, but it does happen, and we should definitely champion those. I do think, though, that we're wasting our time trying to get a lot of what we're trying to say out on social media. There's a place for it, sure, and there's definitely a benefit there. but I don't think that we'll reach the masses like we hope to, because most of the people there are just parrots. So I think that in order to really try and drive change and have these types of discussions, they have to be in person. And that really, really handicaps us as liberty-minded folk, because we're limited to those people we encounter on a daily basis, which is nowhere near the amount of people that we encounter on a daily basis on social media. And it's tragic. And social media has, like, it had this potential to be such a great blessing, and then it just didn't. It turned into this horrible, toxic, massive waste of time. I mean, I'm still going to do my social media things to try and convince those few people that I can never reach in my daily life. But ultimately, I think that making social media your primary target for messaging is not the way to go.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that's why I do the podcast, right? I think there's something magical about long form. And that's why I try to bring on people who I disagree with intentionally. I haven't done a great job, but the last person I had was Jeremy Kauffman. And as you know, I got like the most DMs and hate mail about even having him on, and it's like, okay, fine. Like, you can have that opinion, but I think we should be having those conversations. Especially with people that we disagree with. I think you're right. Like short form, like this sort of Twitter type of engagement is not really likely to be productive. And also think another thing that people could reframe is stop looking at everything like an opportunity to change somebody's mind. I hear these people, particularly in the liberty movement, I'm going to convert them. I'm like, whoa. Well, this is not a cult. This is not a religion. Like that you shouldn't be out there proselytizing. I think that if you have that mental model of anyone you engage with online as being a discussion partner, assuming they're a good faith actor, right? Like we're partnering together, Derek and I, in trying to find out what's true and what's good. Like that's what our aim should be. And we can disagree on the factual disagreements, fine. You can have philosophical disagreements, fine. As long as you define your terms up front, argue in good faith, and then not take things personally, and then also not get attached to changing someone's mind, I think you're going to get a lot further. Because I've had literal Marxists on my show twice, and he's awesome. He's one of the best people I've ever talked to. Like I don't have to agree with everything he said, but also I was surprised at how much we agreed on, right? I think if people actually stop demonizing people and projecting this sort of idea, this nefarious idea of what the other is and what they believe and what they think, and actually ask questions, and we're curious about like, oh wow, we see it differently, like tell me more, like why do you see it that way? I think you'll get a lot further, and we could all get a lot further towards understanding each other and getting some common ground to work from. Because right now this sort of like gonna fucking dunk on everybody and fight all the time and talk all this shit, it's like, that's not helping anything, man. It's not helping you either. Like, yeah, you might feel morally superior because I fucking owned this dude on Twitter that's got a cartoon avatar and has like 19 followers, but like, what the fuck are you doing?
That is one of the reasons that I do try and promote anarchist unity. There's a lot to learn from people on the left side of anarchy. And, and I've said it a lot, and you kind of hit on it here, but we have this bad habit, especially on social media, of dehumanizing each other and demonizing them. I personally think that dehumanizing is a bit better of a word, because, I mean, you do see it where, somebody who's an ANCAP or, authoritarian right will say commies aren't people. And it's like, I actually think you believe that they're not people. They are people. And we see the same thing whenever it comes to our foreign policy. We're okay with bombing Iran, into oblivion, because we don't actually see it. We'll see the war porn, and that's cool because we're doing cool things with cool tech.
Have you noticed too that it's always from like way far away? It's like zoomed way out, and oh, here comes a bomb, boom, indiscriminately. Oh, cool orange explosion, and then some Benny Johnson guys like American Power, Bald Eagle, cacaw. Yeah, it's never like close up. It's never, unless it is the side that's being, bombed, right? Like when they show like this is actually what you did, have a close look at it. Like any of the stuff you see online, it's never connected with the human element of what's actually happening on the ground. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, like, if people actually saw Iranians as people, they would have a much harder time pushing that weapons release button. And they would have a much harder time trying to sell the propaganda that this is a great idea to murder all of these people. The dehumanization aspect of propaganda has been around forever, and it is incredibly effective. And I hate how effective it is, because, like, I don't understand it. And I'm saying this as somebody who used to buy it. I don't understand it. Because it's like, even thinking back to my past self, whenever I was like, yeah, I'm going to go join the military and, fight Iraq and Al-Qaeda and all these I was dehumanizing them then. And I don't understand how my thought process was working looking back at that. Because from their perspective, and I guess this whole thing is really about empathy. From their perspective, we're the fucking terrorists.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Nobody ever considers that. I think empathy has been demonized as weak, and dehumanization has been romanticized as this necessity, as this good thing. And it is necessary from the propaganda standpoint, but like it's so automatic now that even on social media, if you just, if you make a comment against, let's say, you make a comment against Biden, you have some magatard going, oh, yeah, fuck Biden, and Trump is awesome, and you go, no, fuck Trump too. Immediately, you are the enemy, and they will happily see you die. Like, it's so fucking wild, man, and I don't know how to change it. I would love to be able to change this aspect of the human psyche to where I called it like domestication, like a servile dog. That's what the government has done to the individual, to most individuals. They have beaten them into submission like a dog who's been kennelled for too long. And
we're doing it though. That's the thing that people don't understand. Like, have you watched Stefan Molyneux's video, The Story of Your Enslavement?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you need to watch this. It's so great. And he talks about the sort of like human farming models throughout history. Right. Mm-hmm. One was direct slave ownership, like in Egypt, whatever. You like literally have to whip people into submission, and talking about how low productivity that was. And they went through the serf model, where you had lords and you had serfs, and then they did the enclosure movement and they reclaimed all the land. And then they started talking about the democratic version, which is what we're under right now, which is like you give people a limited amount of freedom where they can choose their job, and then the leaders found out, or the owners found out, they could be more productive that way. They actually, the owners sort of made more money by having limited freedom. But what they did, instead of having to do direct ownership where you're directly threatening for the most part, they could have the sort of livestock keep each other in check. If somebody decides to question, like, oh wow, like, is this okay? Should we? And then it's just like that patriotism thing. That's why we have the government schools. The other livestock will circle around, be like, fucker, get back in line. And so the government doesn't even have to do most of this. Like, we rein ourselves in. You just called that out. Like, exactly right. Like the attacks upon the livestock from other livestock is mainly what keeps everybody aligned.
Yeah, I need to check that out for sure.
Everybody check it out. It's one of the best videos ever. I know Steph's gone off the rails lately, but God, some of his earlier stuff was just phenomenal. I owe a huge debt of gratitude to him, so I'm not talking a whole bunch of shit. He's a really important person in the liberty movement and the philosophy community, but boy, that Trump support really left a bad taste in my mouth. The long-term Trump support, which ended like last week. Yeah. So, yeah.
I do worry about what's going to happen post-Trump. Because, I mean, there's no denying it. Trump has changed the face of what I guess for lack of a better word, what statesmanship is. You know, there was this like formal like process that anybody who is a president or a congressman or senator, they all followed. Like, you know, it was very cut and paste, like conditioned. And Trump did change that because he just doesn't know how to, I guess, be anything but himself.
No decorum whatsoever.
Yeah,
He's like the Randy Quaid character from Christmas Vacation that shows up at like a formal event. Like that's the energy that he brings to the room.
100 fucking percent, man. Yes, he is absolutely shit was full, Clark. But like, I don't know what that's gonna look like moving forward. Like, are we always gonna be? Are we going to be overtly ruled over by retarded people? Like,
it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse, man. I'm telling you, like this. I mean, there's two sides of the coin. Like, yes, like every time it gets worse. Every time we elect somebody, it's like Biden. We thought that's the bottom of the barrel, guys. It can't get any worse. And I'm telling you, like every day, I even posted today. It's like I miss Biden. I would give anything to have that asshole back again because that is so monumentally better than what we have with Trump. And we're assured we're gonna get something worse. Next time, it's going to be Gavin Newsom, and my God, that's a whole other variant of evil that's coming down the pike.
Oh, God.
To flip, hold on, before I go on, the other side of that coin, I think is a good thing, is that I think Trump has finally brought around a lot of the lefties on certain issues we've been trying to tell them about for a while. Like the importance of free speech, right? The fact that the state is violence. The fact that the Second Amendment actually is really important, that sometime you might need to shoot the government. Like, I think that, you know, the lefties are, because I see it all the time. These people are like, oh, I'm buying a gun. Like I totally get it now. The right wingers were right. I totally understand. And it's brought back the anti-war left, which has been MIA
missing
forever.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So maybe we can have some skepticism about the nature of government. Maybe we can make some inroads and having some positive discussions, because I mean, most of the Republicans are off the Trump train. They're basically like, fuck it. This is the last shot. I thought that he was going to do something. It's over. It's done. Everyone's just kind of like waiting for the collapse. I think we have a unique opportunity right now. I really do.
Well, time will tell. I know that this past year has felt like it's taken fucking forever, but also has sped by somehow. Like, time doesn't make sense anymore. I really do hope that there is something a bit more positive at the end. I credit where it's due. You know, the things that you brought up are very real and tangible, and it is good to see you know, people on the left side of the political spectrum start to maybe I should get a gun. That's definitely a good thing. Of course, if you ask the typical you know, MAGA types, they'll tell you that's terrible, and they're going to support gun control. But you know, I guess maybe everything will flip again, and Democrats will be like anti-war, pro-gun, and Republicans will be, I don't know. The whole political system is fucked and just needs to go away. But my God, man, like I would like to know how we ended up here and what it's gonna be like afterwards. I hope that Iran really has me concerned, because I don't see a way out of that, even if, you know, somebody like Kamala gets elected next term. I don't see a peaceful way out of that, because we've already fucked that up. And you know, Israel isn't going to let that happen. Bibi sure as fuck isn't going to let that happen. And I don't know what to.
Well, hey, real quick, let me interrupt you, because I've been thinking this a couple of times, and I'm ADD as hell, and I'm not gonna. It's gonna pass me by, and I'm just gonna lose this train of thought. But when I was thinking about how Trump's gonna try to wrap a bow on this one, there's something that's dissonant in my soul. It's like, okay, he's saying this now. We're gonna wrap a bow on this thing, but like, we know he was pushed into this by Bibi. You know, Israel's behind this. They've wanted this forever. You know, he even said, Bibi's like, hey, this is the thing we've been waiting 40 years for. It's time to go. It's like, hold on a second. That guy that's pushing this isn't done yet. Like this Trump making a show of blowing up a bunch of shit and declaring victory, that's not aligned with Israel's interests. So what do you think is up, man? What do you think is the play here?
I don't know. Like, I couldn't predict in my wildest dreams what the next step is supposed to be. Like, I would love for the United States government to come out and say, hey, we really fucked up and we're going to do everything we can to make this right. But that also sucks because that's more stolen property to make that right, because it's going to be paid for with taxes of some kind. So that sucks. And even still, Iran will never, I mean, they never trusted us to begin with, but they sure as fuck wouldn't trust us if we started apologizing. And like, I don't know, man, like there's going to need to be somebody, if there is any sort of path to peace from the multitude of wars that that the U.S. has started since, yes, it's going to be honestly, whoever that person is, if they can broker that is a very talented person, and I would argue that they might have been able to make an argument over the legitimacy of government, but I don't think that that's ever going to happen. So,
No, Trump doesn't apologize, first of all.
No,
never,
absolutely
ever will never apologize. So that's off the table. So here's what I think. And I've thought about this a fair bit. Is that I think the play might be to declare that you're going to end the war. We're going to wrap this thing up. Our objectives were met, even though they clearly weren't met. But he's not going to let the truth get in the way. And then there's going to be either a false flag or something, some action's going to be taken that that Trump can then point to say, oh, look, we've been like a Pearl Harbor moment, now, like, regardless of how this thing started, doesn't matter. Like, they've attacked us. Now we got to jump back in. And now it's full scale ground invasion. It's going to be whatever objectives Bibi has. I think that gives him the sort of the impetus or the excuse, the thinly veneered excuse to be like, well, we got it now. They did that thing. They attacked whatever. Like, I think that's coming. And I don't know if it's just saving face or he needs to have, because I know there's tons of backlash. Nobody wanted this shit. All of the MAGA people were like, leading up to the election, were like, no new wars.
No more,
nothing in the Middle East. Let's stop this bullshit. Let's invest at home. And he just steamrolled everybody, did it anyway. And I think that he feels that, number one, probably losing control. Like, this isn't going the way he thought it was going to go. No. And the backlash is extreme. The pressure is intense. And so I think he needs something, man. I think there needs to be an op. There needs to be something get blowed up. Something really tragic 9/11 style needs to happen for him to have the impetus to be like, fuck it. We're just going to go ground invade.
Yeah, I mean, he's already started ramping up, so I think that's going to happen. Although I did see Kim.com posted a poll, said, how much longer is Trump going to be president? 1 day, 1 month, or 1 year? Those were the only options. I'm like, holy shit, that's fucking funny. I honestly, I would love to see an impeachment and removal from office. I don't think that is also. I also don't think that that's ever going to be likely. And the only real thing we could ever hope for would be redacted. Unfortunately.
Yep. Say no more. Let me pivot a little bit, because I want to talk about the Epstein files, man. I think we've both all seen the graphs of interest in Epstein files over time since the Iran war started. It's dwindling to zero. So I'm going to do my part to reverse that trend.
Yes.
DOJ came out and said, look, we're absolutely done now. Like, we're not releasing anything else. We're going to keep the 6 million whatever Epstein files secret, and y'all can go fuck yourselves. Where do you think it goes from here?
Oh, I honestly, like, from a distraction standpoint, I hate that this is working. And I don't think that there's going to be anything to bring that trend back up. Unfortunately, I do think that is just going to fade away. You'll still have people like us screaming about it, But I mean, you're already seeing it on socials. People saying, "Yep, Trump. He might be the most mentioned man in all of what was released." But you know, there's no proof. There's no proof. Just some words on paper that don't prove anything. But then you bring up like Bill Gates or Joe Biden or anybody like that. You're like,
They'll instantly admit they're guilty.
Absolutely. I'm like,
yes,
bro, this is literally the same evidence. Literally the same. And you're gonna be like,
no, it's not. I think it's less. I think it's less, man. Like if people like to discount the birthday card.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, did we forget about the birthday card? Literally, you wrote an homage in this little like play dialogue to Jeffrey Epstein for his birthday with a silhouette of a prepubescent or barely postpubescent girl with tiny breasts and like talking about, hey, Jeff, you and I have a lot in common, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and wonderful secrets and enigmas never age. And in the, it's not just alone, it's the context of the entire book, which we have copies of, right? And everybody is in there saying all this disgusting stuff that completely aligns with what we know about Jeffrey Epstein. And then everyone is acting like he just didn't write that shit. And to be clear, in the Epstein files, there's emails talking about putting the book together, reaching out to the people who contributed to the book and collecting all of their inputs and having the fucking thing leather bound, which is what the House Oversight Committee received from the Epstein estate under subpoena Ducey's Take'em. They've got the book and we're all looking at each other like, oh, there's no proof, there's no evidence. I'm like, how much more do you need? Like honest to God.
Honestly, at this point in this day and age, there could be released a video and people would say it's AI. And like there is no burden of proof unless he were to do it on live TV right now. And even that might not convince everybody. They'll be like, "Oh, that was fake. That was China doing that. They hacked the system and put this AI video up there." So, yeah, no, it's wild. Like, whenever it comes to Thomas Massie, I don't carry his water, but I do appreciate some of the things that he's done. Epstein being by far one of the best things that he did. I do wish that he would just reveal what he saw in that closed doors unredacted review that they did. Because like,
did he have access to the unreleased
I think
stuff
so,
though?
right?
I don't know. So that's the thing, because I thought, based off of the comments they made before, that the House Oversight Committee, all the congressmen could go back and they could search the unredacted versions, because that's what they were saying. Like they could have the same documents, but they could see what names were redacted, right, and all that stuff. So they could see the files. But I thought it was only the stuff that the DOJ released.
Oh yeah, I don't know, but there's some fucked up shit in that too. You know, like even what was released. I mean, like who sent the email that was talking about how the littlest one was very not like. I don't even want to finish that fucking sentence. It's fucked, man. Like there's some fucked up shit there, and those names were redacted. So like I would love to see somebody like Massie come out and say, you know what, fuck all the bullshit and the classified nature of everything. This is, people need to know this. But then again, he might have a reason for not, because he might not have been able to review everything. But I do appreciate what he has done. I would like for him to, continue pushing as hard as he can. But I even think that he might be a little powerless to stop this from fizzling away. Because ultimately that's what the government wants, and what the government wants, the government gets, or it murders you. So.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's like, what are you going to do when the head of the DOJ refuses to comply? The chief law enforcement officer for the whole country. It's like, who do you escalate to? It's not the president. I mean, we all know that is Bondi is not doing this on her own. She's just a puppet of Trump. And so, like, what recourse do you have? And I think this is where you and I get into that redacted category. Like, they're basically looking at you saying, like, what are you going to do about it?
I mean, I'm not in a good physical shape to do anything about it. Although I am working on that, but it's for health reasons. But even still, like, in order to do redacted, you need numbers, and I don't think that those are there either.
Of course,
unfortunately. And
if you're not going to do something about the Epstein stuff, like, I don't think there's any like bar, there's no limit, there's no line to where people are going to take any sort of action. I think it's all talk. I think everybody likes to say the thing, particularly on the right. They just love, like, oh, we're going to Second Amendment. No, you're not. No, you're not. Matter of fact, the lefties are the only people that are doing anything, and then you're demonizing them. All of a sudden you come out as the giant boot-licking pieces of shit that you are, and just the fucking lefties are doing more kinetic action than fucking anybody on the right has ever done.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing.
It's really weird. I would love to know the aliens that Trump redacted those files for. Those aliens, I would love to know what they think of this whole clusterfuck, because they're watching it from a very specific lens. Like, oh my god, this is why we don't go back. This right here, this is why we don't go back.
Jesus, man. Now, thinking through this, man, have you thought about how many distractions they've rolled out around the Epstein stuff?
I know that I kind of like lost count.
Yeah, do you remember LA? Do you remember when LA was popping off?
Oh god, yeah.
That was immediately, dude, Elon dropped the thing like, hey, Trump's in the Epstein files, everybody, LOL. And then like within a week or 15 days, like LA was on fire, and it was the most emergent thing ever. And then it's just been distraction after distraction, and they get faster and they're getting more intense. It's like when I saw that dumbass Nick Shirley come out, the most obvious psyop ever to sort of rally, the conservatives around Somali fraud. Like, that'll get them, the Fox News crowd. And it did. It suckered these fucking people in, and Minneapolis became the epicenter. And then it was like ICE, that was the big thing. And they're making this giant show, not doing mass deportations, but making a very authoritarian show, because they knew it would provoke the lefties in Minneapolis, which it did. And then you got a couple of dead people coming out of that, and America's fighting about that. And then it's like Greenland, like we went directly from the Minneapolis thing to Greenland. And then, by the way, they pulled out of Minneapolis, and like, oh, we're not doing Minneapolis and ICE anymore. We're moved on to Greenland. And then after that, it was like Venezuela literally coming in, admitting they have directed energy weapons and taking out, arresting the president of Venezuela. And then it's so fast. The carousel of distraction is, and I think it's intentional. I think they've measured the news cycle, and like, if we can just do, and I think they're just trying to keep it going all the way till the midterms, to where they can, I mean, that's going to be a shit show anyway, but I think that's the strategy. I think it's what they're doing.
No, I'm going to tell you that you're 100% right, and I will tell you how I know. Because I'm a nerd, and whenever I first started doing deep dives into Operation Ajax, I looked up the declassified documents from there, and a lot of their strategies are what we're seeing. False flags, with anything that's going to cause massive media attention, organizing protest and encouraging them to get violent. Literally everything that we're seeing here, I read about in declassified documents from the 1950s over what to do in Iran. And they're doing it here. This is all very much organized and created and fabricated. And you're 100% right. These people probably have binders and binders of scenarios, not of Epstein files, of scenarios on what they want to enact next for the next distraction, because that's just how they operate. They got to be ready for it. They have to plan out everything. And I'm sure bombing Iran was probably in there at some point. They probably didn't expect it to go this far, or this quick. But here we are, and they have probably 1,000 follow-ups for everything. Including either a false flag orchestrated by them, or sitting back and doing nothing to let the thing happen because they're like, this will be good for us. So, yeah.
Gross. I feel like I need a hot shower now.
Yeah, I do too after saying it. So.
I love that people probably look at us like, God, you guys are fucking bummers, man. Like, you are no fun at parties.
No, I am very much not fun at parties. I usually am out of there by like 8:30 at the latest, if I even show up.
Yeah, I got no time for parties, man. Well, hey, like let's talk about something else. I want to take a curveball. You mentioned the whole trying to work on the health stuff, and I'm doing the same thing. Like, I don't know if you know this, but my initial account was based on like a sort of health journey that I was on. I lost like 85 pounds and sort of did a whole bunch of stuff
No,
in that space. And it kind of
congratulations, man. That's
no,
awesome.
I got fat again, man. Like I started sliding back again. So I'm actually doing a 30-day water fast, like we talked about earlier today.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so that's kind of just that's part of it, but also it's just mental toughness, all the other things, autophagy. There's a bunch of benefits to it. But I want to talk to you about like what are you doing, man? Like what is your protocol? What is your process? How are you thinking about improvement? What are your goals?
Yeah, so I actually owe this latest round to mushrooms.
Hell yeah.
So I've struggled with my weight my whole life. Even when I was in the military, I was always getting taped, right? Um, Granted, I was in the best shape of my life, but not there anymore. Um, but recently I did these humble APEs, which I've never had before. And I went on the wildest journey I've ever been on. I'm no stranger
Sorry,
to mushrooms.
real quick for the lay people in the audience or the normies, that's albino penis envy, which is
Oh
a
yeah,
strain of psilocybin mushrooms. Just I just wanted to drop that in
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm no stranger to mushrooms. I do them fairly regularly as like mental therapy because they're great. But this was a new strain I had never tried before, and oh my
They're
god,
strong.
dude. So I experienced what my life would be like as an elderly person if I did not get my shit together immediately. And like I was just trying to change the bed sheets because my wife was out. She was at the Lady Gaga concert this particular night. I was by myself, so I was having a good time until I wasn't. But like I'm just trying to change the sheets because it'd be a nice surprise for her to come home to clean sheets, and like I'm struggling. It is physically difficult for me to do what I'm trying to do, and this is just a basic chore. Like I was getting winded. I was having trouble just like spreading out the sheet. Like I felt decrepit. I've never felt like this in my entire life. And I ended up like collapsing on my bed for a minute, and I was just like, what is happening? Oh my god. Like I was getting concerned. And I finally like got up and I drug myself to the restroom, and I look in the mirror and I see myself, but I am old. And uh the me in the mirror is talking to me. I'm not moving my lips. At least I don't think I am. But it looks at me and said, "This is your last chance. Stop fucking around. This is your last." Like it repeated this over and over again, and I was just like, "Oh my god." And I struggle over and I take a piss real quick, and as soon as I'm done, I'm back to normal. Like I almost feel sober again. Like that's how back to normal I was. And I look in the mirror and I'm fine. Granted, I ended up like falling in another trip here, a bit later, but that right there was the most eye-opening experience I've ever had. And not only to like see myself in the mirror and like see my future self chastise me, but also live it and experience it was insane. So because of that, I am, I'm making sure to get my shit right. I'm eating right. I'm going to the gym. I belong to a boxing gym that I try to go to when I'm not traveling. Boxing is insane. I swear to God, that heavy bag hits back, but apparently it doesn't. But it kicks my ass every time I do it. And then whenever I'm traveling, I'm making sure that I go to the hotel gym and do it. I am in I am in such a different place mentally. And another part of this trip was you can read my post on it because I kind of posted about it, but I had this incident where my brain was literally getting rewired and I felt it happen, and it was wild. That was part of this whole thing. And it really rewired my brain. Like I no longer am before. It doesn't matter what was happening, like, or how motivated I thought I was. Anytime I'd be like, okay, I got to go to the gym, I was just like, fighting myself. Now I do not fight it. I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, get up, put my shoes on, hit the gym. Like, it is not even a thought. It is not a chore. It is nothing. And honestly, like, this could end up saving my life. So, yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. That's what mushrooms do. This is why I have a hard time believing these things are illegal still. Is like every trip I've ever had, even the ones that I call challenging trips, people are like, oh, bad trips. Like, you don't have bad trips. You might have a challenging trip, but there's never been a time where I've done a heavy dose of psychedelics to where I haven't walked away a better person. Like, every single time, it's the same thing for me with mushrooms, particularly, is that you have this nice euphoric come up and everything's beautiful and the colors and you're enjoying the experience, and and then you peak, and then it's kind of like they almost sit you down and be like, hey, motherfucker, we got to talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
You got some stuff to sort out, and then you feel like a piece of shit for like 2 hours where you're going through and you can just see all the stupid things you're doing wrong. And you can see like this tiny little thing over here is actually causing like 5 other problems over here. And then you feel like you're the worst person in the world. And then the end, it like sets you down nice and gently, kind of pats you on the butt. It's like, all right, there, go out there and try to be a better version of yourself. And it's like, why would you make that illegal? That's one of the craziest things to me, that we have this mushroom that just grows in cow shit. And you can't, like, they will put you in a cage or murder you if you just want to consume this thing. It's the most mind-bending thing I can think of.
Well, it might open your mind enough to realize that the government is unnecessary and evil. So, I mean, that's a pretty big reason that the government wouldn't want them. Of course, I came to that conclusion before I ever first tried mushrooms, but that's just me.
I was the same boat, and I had that reinforced through mushrooms. Yeah. That just that got driven home to me. I also had this really weird sort of sense, and I've had this a bunch of times on mushrooms, is that the church really doesn't want this getting out, because these churches, I think every sort of religion has been based off of psychedelics or deep meditation in one way or the other. I think you get to the same mental space regardless of how you get there. It's just a lot easier to take a whole bunch of mushrooms. Like, that's just the easiest way to get there. But you know what I'm talking about. When you've had a deep trip, there's something profound about that. There's spiritual. It's like a transcendent experience. You're connected with, I don't have a hard time describing, but whatever that is, whatever that place is, that spiritual place that you feel deja vu, like I've been here before, all of that stuff. I think that's the basis of these religions. And I think these churches now, particularly in America, the Christian churches, like, there's no there. They've got the ritual, they've got the structure, they've got the rules and the theology and the do's and don'ts, but there's no spiritual connection. When I was a Christian, I sincerely believed in all this stuff, and I tried to connect, and there was just nothing there. Like, you could pray or whatever, and it's just like into a brick wall. There was just nothing there, and I could try to convince myself to go through the motions. But as soon as I tried psychedelics, I was like, oh, there's actually something else here. I was a hardcore Reddit atheist, like, for a while, and I'm kind of like in this mode now where, like, okay, well, there's something there. I don't know what that is. And, as a, psychonaut, you understand, like, something's going on. This is like way profound, way beyond what I can conceptualize. And I'm just like, I don't know what it is. I'm searching for it. But I think churches don't like that because it allows you to free think, same way with the government. Like you could maybe have a direct spiritual experience, direct access, so you don't have to mediate through a priest or your church structure or whatever. I think they don't like that. I think they like to use government to block access to that.
Yeah, no, you are 100% right. Honestly, I think anybody should get on psychedelics. I like to stick to a schedule. I smoke weed every day for my mental health, but I also I do mushrooms. I try to do like a heavy hero dose like once a quarter, if not once a month. And I call it a hard reset, and it's so needed and necessary for your own mental health, but it also, like, it makes your mind open in a way you never thought possible, and you start considering things that you never considered before, and you start experiencing things that you never could experience before. And none of that is negative. Even if, like you said, when somebody has a quote unquote bad trip, they usually come out on the other side better. They gain from something from it, and it's always beneficial. Unless
I
you're
want to interrupt real quick just because I don't want to get stuff fucked up, but I will not recommend anybody take psychedelics. There are counterindications. If people have various reasons they might not want to do it based on the literature, like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia runs in their family. There's a bunch of reasons why somebody might. So I would never, ever blanket endorse people doing psychedelics. I'm just talking about my experience and the experience of other people who have reported psychedelic experiences, as well as the literature. So Roland Griffiths, Johns Hopkins University, Imperial College London, Robin Carhart Harris. There's a bunch of people who have done a bunch of very sanctioned and legal research on psychedelics, and I want to limit the discussion to that without endorsing it. So I just want to put that caveat in there for my overlords.
I apologize for my choice of words. I did not select the correct verbiage as to what I meant to say. And for that, I apologize very deeply. I am going to just, whatever Brent just said is what I meant, because that is true. Anyway, you can walk out of the worst trip possible and get something beneficial from it. And as long as you like, I'm kind of ritualistic about using mushrooms, and that is like beforehand I like try and clear my mind, and I set my intentions, and all this sounds hokey and whatever, but this is how I go about doing it, and it works really well for me. And I'm definitely not going to yuck somebody's yum if they want to just eat a bunch of mushrooms and then go to an EDM rave. Okay, fine, you do you. I personally don't think that that's what they're for. I think that they are for mental health and maintenance, and they should be used almost, kind of spiritually, because that's the experience you should be having. But that's just my opinion. Again, not to yuck anybody.
I don't think it's just your opinion. They've done a lot of research on this, and there's a couple of things. Number one, having a container around the experience seems to be very, very important. That's why oftentimes, like in South America, where they do the ayahuasca stuff, there's an ayahuasquero, and they chant a certain way, and there's this whole ceremony that's tied to it, and that sort of containerizes the experience, because otherwise it can just be off into the weeds. You've been on psychedelics before. Your brain can go down some very quick it's very slippery. You can all of a sudden find yourself in a very odd, sometimes dangerous mental state. And so I think having that container is important. Ritualizing, it's very important. Like I said, like, do what you want. Like, if you want to go to a rave, that's fine. I can't personally imagine it because it makes me very paranoid. Like, I'm somebody, like, I want to be alone. I want to be like either in nature, completely away from everybody. People make me very I get a lot of anxiety when I even see somebody. It's a mental space I don't want to get to. But I know people that can do it, and they do fine. So I'm like, knock yourself out. But I think there's a lot of evidence to state that, like, look, or to back up the fact that, like, we really should have some respect for this stuff. And I think there's protocols in place for a reason, even if it's just observing set and setting, right? Doing the basic psychedelic safety guardrails, as it were. Maybe cleaning up your space, making sure you're not have you ever been in a trip where things aren't tidy and it's not cleaned up? It's like, it's the worst experience ever. You're just like, you're just bothered by it,
Yeah.
and it interferes with it. So I think it's good to sort of have these protocols. It's a good safety thing. But to your point, like, I don't think bad trips really exist. I think some of the most impactful trips I've had have been the worst experientially. Like, for me, like, my wife and daughters struggle with anxiety a little bit, and I don't get it. Like, so when they start telling me, like, I'm anxious, my logical brain's like, well, that's dumb. Like, why are you anxious about that thing? That's not going to happen. Like, clearly. And I had a trip once where I got into an anxiety spiral that I could not get out of. It was just downhill. I was convinced I was, for no reason, like, going to lose my job, and I was going to get kicked out of the house, and we're going to be on the street. And you just go down that mental spiral. And I noticed it, and I arrested it. I said, you're on mushrooms. You're having, like, this bad trip or whatever. Pull out. I could not get out of this thing. And I just went down this. It was just the most painful, probably 3-4 hours of my life, where I just ruminating on these anxious thoughts. And then I finished that trip And it was kind of like, okay, motherfucker, this is what you're, what it feels like to have this anxiety. And I was like, okay, say no more. So every time they bring up now they're anxious, I can immediately go back to that place and say, oh, I can empathize now. Like, I
Yeah,
know
I
what
was
that
just
feels
thinking,
like.
yeah.
Yeah. It was very good. So I don't believe bad trips exist. I think you learn something from each of them.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And it's crazy that this conversation took the direction of what we were talking about earlier before about empathy and not dehumanizing or discrediting or whatever. It's just wild. It's crazy how that happens. It's almost like the universe is connected.
It is.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. And I think people, like, if they do choose to, work with psychedelics, I think you'll learn a lot from that. You will learn this sort of like, you get this understanding that we're all connected. Like, all of us aren't on an island. We're not, Derek is not the other, you're not this separate. Like, we're all part of the same fabric. The universe is all kind of like one thing. That's how I view it anyway. I get this profound sense that, like, we're all connected. We're all these little pinpoints of consciousness in the universe perceiving itself. And that's a really cool thought. And if you could consider that and be like, hey, that other person that you're hating because of their position on immigration or something, like they're just like you, and they're divine, and they're worthy of respect and all that. I think that empathy, it really seeps down into the fabric of your soul, man. And people are missing that.
Yeah, they are missing that, and it's sad. I would. Lately I've been using mushrooms to kind of escape, with the stressors. But like, even if things were going perfectly, it's still a wonderful avenue for many people to take, because it just helps. It's like you said, it makes you better every time. You come out better. You learn something, and that should be the minimum for other people too. You should want to learn things about yourself and learn things about others, and be able to empathize with them, because everybody's people. They have people who love them. They have people who care about them. They put their pants on the same way you do, and when you cut them, they bleed. We are all literally the same species, and there's no reason for us to hate each other. I get a lot of shit sometimes from normies because I'm an anarchist, and it's like, well, that's utopian. It's like, no, it's not, because
I hate that so much.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's not going to be disagreements and there's not going to be evil people, but if we all open our minds, we can actually make the world a better place. And we don't have to be oppressed, and we don't have to be ruled, and we don't have to have our property stolen from us on an annual basis or a paycheck basis, or have the value of our property extorted from us, or any of that. We can actually control our own lives and live in, especially compared to the status quo, live in peace. There's going to be people who have quabbles, and some of those might turn violent, but you know what? It's going to be a much smaller scale. It's going to have a much less of an impact. It's not going to impact nearly as many innocent lives, and it's going to be better. Not perfect, but better. And I think that is really what people are missing. And I hope, and I pray for the world, because right now it's kind of fucked.
Amen, brother. I gotta say, that's a great place to end it. Seriously, that's a good way to put a bow on this. Why don't you tell people, if they're dumb and don't pay any attention, where they can find you online?
Well, first of all, they're not dumb. They just might have not have heard of me before, and that's perfectly
ignorance.
fine.
Sorry, ignorance.
Yeah,
it's an ignorance problem.
I am on Twitter at ANCAPAIR, ANCAPAIR. That's where I spend most of my time, but I'm also on the Nostr clients. You can find me there. I've posted my public key on Twitter, so you can find that there. But I also have a book on Amazon, The Liberty Solution. I'm working on my second book, and I need to get better at working on it because I have been lazy the past several months. So I need to get that going again. Also, I have a bunch of essays on Twitter, but also on the Torch Media, just talking about alternatives to the state that we currently live, and how things might work. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me.
Awesome, awesome. Everybody go check out Derek. He's awesome. Seriously, buy the book, follow all of his stuff. He's one of the best eggs on Twitter for sure. So anyway, man, thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. You're one of my favorite people in the world. You're my homie.
Yeah,
really happy you stopped by and we chatted.
absolutely, man. I appreciate the invite, and I love talking with you every day. So we'll chat tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Talk later.
Later, bye.
Bye. All right.